Welcome to the latest economic update. As usual, Professor Joe Nellis is joining me in the studio. Today we're going to concentrate on debt. Now Joe, why is debt so important? There seem to be two schools of thought about debt. One is it's a bit like a household. You've got to watch your budget, you've got to get it down. The second one is leave it be. Growth will take care of things. Now, where are we?
Well, there are indeed two schools of thought, Steve. That on the one hand, a household, if you borrow a lot of money, you've got to pay it back because you've got a finite life. And banks, therefore, will not want you to die without paying back the debt. That's fairly obvious. In the case of a country, it's not quite the same, of course. Countries don't die as such. But the real problem is this. As a country like Greece or the UK, as it builds up its national debt, then the problem is that the interest charge on that, the debt servicing costs, that becomes a larger and larger proportion of tax revenue in any one year. And of course, if more tax revenue is paying the interest, then there's less taxes used to do other things like build hospitals, roads, defence. That's the real problem here. It's servicing the debt, which is the issue, not the actual size of the debt per se.
Now in the UK, the European Commission, as you know, is saying we need to speed up the level of repayment of this debt.
Well, and precisely for that reason, their concern is that if the debt is allowed to get much bigger, there'll be less freedom for the government to help the economy to grow. And a slower growing UK economy burdened with debt is not good for Europe either. I mean, we trade with Europe to a very large extent. More than half of our exports and imports come from Europe. So they want the UK to grow strong because it helps the European economy.
Now, we talk about a big debt or a little debt. How much should a debt be as a proportion of GDP?
Well, it's not a precise science to this, Steve. If you're a member of the Eurozone, as Greece is, that's easier to answer because within the Eurozone, membership means you must keep your national debt to no more than 60% of GDP. Well, Greece is probably double that today. So they have a problem purely from the membership of the Eurozone. In the case of the UK, we're not restricted in that sense. However, as our national debt grows as a percentage of our GDP, then the financial markets become more concerned for the reason I've said, in terms of can we service that debt out of tax revenue without putting pressure on the economy? And the financial markets then will build in a greater risk premium on the cost of borrowing from them. And that's the real danger we face here. The cost of borrowing will go up.
So if I put you on the spot and say, if you were Prime Minister, what would you do?
Well, I would not go for a quick fix. I think that is correct. Gordon Brown, in that sense, is correct. To pull the plugs, as it were, on fiscal stimuli immediately this year would be a serious risk, and I would not recommend that. I think this year for the UK is going to be a very slow recovery, and all the figures that are coming out support that view so far. I would, of course, not want to wait too long to balance the government's account. The government has said they hope to reduce the national debt within 4 years. I think that may be the longest timescale they should envisage. So certainly I think next year and the following year we should see some very definite signs of debt reduction, but not this year.
Joe, I think we're going to have to revisit this at some point in the future and see how your predictions and the predictions of the gurus turn out. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.